One of the most fascinating and successful people on television over the past few decades is none other than Steve Harvey. And the reason that we're discussing Steve Harvey today is because, like me and probably like you, Steve Harvey struggled with stuttering and stammering. But as is obvious now, he rose above it, he overcame it. And so because of that, it's pretty clear that there are probably a couple things that you and I can learn from Steve Harvey in our attempt and in our quest to become more fluent in our speech. So let's talk about it. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I want to give you a gift, and it is my free Stop Stuttering workshop. If you do not have a plan at the moment and you're just kind of going at stuttering just with this goal in mind, and it's like, I want to beat it, but I'm not really doing that much to overcome it, you got to change that. You need a system, you need a plan, and that is exactly where my Stop Stuttering workshop comes in. It's 100% free. Just click the link in the description below or just go to speakyourmindmethod.com. What this workshop does is it will give you the tools, it gives you the plan and the daily routine and the system to follow, and if you actually truly apply it, you could achieve 90% fluency in as little as 6 weeks. All right. So what's holding you back? It's 100% free. I want to make sure that you have it. It's just my gift to you for watching this episode, for being here. And so go check it out before you leave this episode. All right. Now let's dive in and let's discuss Steve Harvey. And what the format that I'm going to use here is we are going to look at Steve Harvey's speaking style at its current state. And we're going to see if there's a few things that we can learn from Steve Harvey. And the way that we are going to do that is together, we're just going to watch a video on YouTube of a clip that Steve Harvey did when he recently went on Shannon Sharpe's podcast called Club Shay Shay. Shannon Sharpe is a very famous former NFL player. He's in the NFL Hall of Fame. And just an incredible, very charismatic TV personality. And so Steve Harvey went on Shannon Sharpe's podcast, and one of the things they talked about was Steve Harvey's struggle with stuttering, especially as a child. So let's start by just kind of hitting play on that video. Oh, got my headphones the wrong way. So we'll hit play on that video, and then I'll just pause it as things come to mind and as I see things. And then we'll go from there. So here we go.
Because
let me restart this.
You had a speech impediment when you were growing up, and that you had a teacher that said you weren't going to make it because you stuttered.
Yeah.
And there's someone in your community, someone in the deli that says, slow down, say what you want to, take 3, and then start over again. How did that make you feel when you she crushed I'm a kid and she already crushing my dream.
She's a teacher.
Yes, she's supposed to lift you.
This dream killing heifer. I said, what kind of, I said in front of the class, because we had to write an assignment, what you want to be when you grow up.
Okay.
The first day of school.
Right.
6th grade. And I write, I want to be on TV. She called everybody's name, had them stand up, then she made me come to the front. I go to the front, I think I'm finna get a gold star. I got the best answer in here.
Right.
Because I knew all my answers was better. Because Lonnie Cage had wrote on his paper, he wanted to be a doctor. His ass couldn't even read in the reading group. So I don't know how Lonnie gonna be no damn doctor. This has got to be. So at least I wrote something that had a chance of happening. Lonnie ass got about a bigger chance of being a doctor as I got to walking my ass to the moon by Friday. So when she called me up there, man, and she said, why did you write this on your paper?
Okay, now we're gonna keep watching this and keep listening to the story here that Harvey is telling us. But I think one of the things that I notice, since I'm a speech coach, right, I pay very close attention to the way people speak. I can totally see that Steve Harvey has struggled with stuttering in the past. He's got a particular style where it seems like his airflow does sometimes kind of block up a little bit, but it's not. The only reason I notice that is because I'm a speech coach and I pay attention to these things. And it's actually, that's not even important because nobody cares. Nobody notices. He is presenting himself. He is able to say the things that he wants to say, and he's able to deliver it in a way that he wants to deliver. And so nothing else matters, right? And so it might even be false to say that Steve Harvey is completely cured. It might be false to say that. Because even like what I'm hearing, Now, a lot of speakers do this where it's kind of a little bit, you have moments where the airflow is completely blocked off, but he's not falling into any loops or patterns or repetitions or anything. He's not hindered in any way from saying what he needs to say. And I bring this up because this is very much my story. Like, this is still if I have a bad day, I will still feel those blocks happening in my throat where my vocal cords will literally kind of slam together and it feels like I'm reverting back to my old habits. But because I've built up the system and the skills and I have such a wide understanding and I've built all these fluency habits, I can quickly pivot away from letting those old habits take over again. So I'm always able to get out of it in one form or another. But that doesn't mean that I'm cured in a true sense of what the word cured actually means. I don't think of myself as cured from stuttering. What I think of myself as is somebody who stuttering does not get in the way of anything I want to do. Stuttering is not a roadblock. My speech is not a roadblock. I am no longer hindered or kept from anything that I want to achieve or anything I want to do in life. And that, to me, that is all I care about. Like, who cares whether I'm cured or whether or not I still sometimes struggle or have bad days? Who cares about that? I no longer get anxious about it. I am not held back. I never stay at home and avoid something because I'm afraid of stuttering. That never happens anymore. And so I just want to bring that up because I think there's this fallacy and this idea and often the fantasy that we conjure up in our minds when we are on the path of wanting to overcome stuttering, perhaps exactly where you're at now since you stumbled across this YouTube video. Often we just have this fantasy that we think it's just a completely different realm. And in some ways it is, but it's just important to understand that you're building a new habit, you're developing this new way of speaking. That doesn't mean that you don't have the ability to stutter. It's just that since you've developed these new skills and these new habits and this new speech identity, whenever those blocks or those stutters start to resurface, you can pivot away very quickly and you can move on from it unscathed because you've built the skills. Okay, so let's keep watching this.
I said, because that was our assignment for today.
Right.
And then I had a little stuttering problem, so I was stuttering a little bit. And she said, "Who do you know on TV in this neighborhood?" And so I started, by the tone of her voice, I could tell that this wasn't going the way this wasn't feel bold, gold star moment.
Yeah.
This heifer trying to break me in front of these kids.
Right.
And she was doing a damn good job of it
Right.
too. She was crushing me.
Okay.
Who in this neighborhood ever been on TV? Who in your family ever been on TV? Who in this school been on TV? And what make you think you can be on TV? And look at you standing there, you can't even talk.
Now, of course, this is just an awful story. Just the fact that there are people out there who will tell kids these types of things, just shatter their dreams, crush their souls. I mean, it's truly, you want to talk about devouring the dreams and the hopes of a kid. And this happens all the time, right? This happens all the time. It's just that Steve Harvey was one of the people who rose above it. A lot of people don't rise above that type of criticism. And but aside from the story, though, one of the things that I thought about and that I noticed when he's speaking here is there's a really good idea that I love, and it's almost like a feeling that you feel when you speak. And I first learned this, or I first heard this from Lee Levette. Lee Levette is a speech coach, and he has some incredible ways, I think, of approaching it, especially if you're at that early stage of like just simply wanting to not stutter. And what I try to do is go beyond that to where, yes, I want to help you not stutter, but I also want to help you just build a new identity so that it's sustainable, so that it's not just using a trick or a tool here and there, but it's actually building you up and building up the new habits so that so that you can stretch it out throughout the course of the rest of your life and not just be fluent, but be an incredible speaker, right? So that is more of what I try to do, but I have so much respect for Lee Levette, especially with this one thing that he talks about, which is to let your urge do the talking. That's one of the things that you notice or that I noticed here about Steve Harvey when he's talking in this interview. His urge is just his emotion, that drive, that energy, that desire to communicate a message. That is what's driving him. And this may be, if you've ever wondered why in certain situations where you feel emotionally charged, right? Or if you're at a concert or you're just really enjoying yourself and you feel energy, you feel emotions, that it's much easier to speak. You feel like you can speak freely, like you don't stutter in those situations. If you ever wondered why that's the case, this just might be it. It's because you are letting your urge to talk do the talking. You're not overanalyzing things in your head about like the words and replacing words and all this and that. Instead, you are engaged. You are in the moment and you are very grounded in the moment, and you are just that pull and that compelling nature of the conversation you're in, or of the interaction or the moment. You let that speak. So it's almost like speaking from your gut or your soul or your heart. If you can visualize more of that when you are out and about in your daily life, it's going to be incredibly helpful. It's not the only thing. You still need tools, especially early on, to help you in the moment to get over stutters or blocks. But I think this, as a more deeper idea, is incredibly powerful. Is just this, again, from Lee Levitt, to let your urge to talk do the talking. And I can feel that here with Steve Harvey. He's not all up in his head. He's letting the emotion of the conversation kind of, and that urge to add value and to bring his energy into it. That is what's driving him here. And especially because he's telling this story that has a very deep emotional impact, that had a deep emotional impact on him. So that does make it easier for him to lean into that.
Now you write something more reasonable on your paper. She crushed me, man. I said, damn, this is a teacher.
Right.
You know, this is in the 68, man.
Right.
I'm sitting there looking at this lady like, God, dog. But I kept my paper and took it home.
Right.
And my mama said, your daddy gonna beat you when you get home for being a smart aleck. Because she'd call home and said, your child is a smart aleck.
Right.
Because I wanted to be on TV. Everybody else, basketball player, football player.
Right.
I don't like tackle.
Right.
I ain't like it. You know, you throw me on the ground, I want to fight. You know, I ain't good at this.
Right.
So when my father came home, she said, Slick, this boy been a smart aleck up at the school. And he said, well, what'd you do? I said, I wrote on the paper I want to be on TV. My father said, well, what's wrong with that? And I saw a little glimmer of hope, because I wasn't going to get this ass whooping I thought I was going to get. He said, well, your boy can be whatever he want to be. And it was like, I thought I was finna get executed, you know. Because when my daddy came home, it was time for that. He was the executioner. Right. My mama was a judge. She handed down the sentence. My daddy was the executioner at the house. So I'm finna get executed. And being when he said that, the red phone rang from the governor's office.
You got a reprieve.
That was a reprieve. And he said, you don't worry about that. You keep that paper and you read your paper every morning, every night.
Okay, so I think that's where I'm going to just end that part of it. Now, be sure to go and watch this in full. It's a 10+ minute video on YouTube on the Club Shay Shay podcast with Steve Harvey here. And one of the things that I think I want to share here is that you may, if you've been following my tips and techniques and the things that I teach, and then if you go listen to somebody like Steve Harvey, you might think that, well, he's not really implementing that much of what you're teaching. And that actually is probably true. For example, I always teach my students, one of the tools is word stretching. So word stretching, not every word, but often to kind of get into the mode of stretching your words like that. Instead of always speaking very quickly and very fast and kind of everything running into each other, you take your time and every sentence or two, you stretch a word here and there. And the reason that I prefer that tool, as opposed to perhaps the tool of, or the advice of just slow down, is because it can be much more difficult to slow down everything. And it's hard to implement that in real time. It's much more effective generally to implement a tool like word stretching, because that will by nature slow you down because you're stretching out some words. But anyway, I bring that up because it's not like Steve Harvey necessarily stretches his words that much. That's not really in his cadence very much. I mean, it's there, it's pretty subtle, but you don't see it in any exaggerated way. You definitely don't see it to the extent that I've seen with some other speakers like Simon Sinek or Tim Ferriss. They tend to have more of those elongated words that'll get stretched out. But I think it's important for me to mention this, that's completely okay. It's just like the old adage goes, you learn the rules, and one of the reasons that you learn the rules is because you want to give yourself permission to break them. And that is one of the things that, rules are important, guidelines are important, formulas are important, but at the end of the day, once you master the tools, you master the rules, you master the laws of whatever it is you are learning, then once you reach the end, or even during it, you'll start to pick up on this and you'll start to be able to free yourself and deviate from whatever the rules or the laws are. And that's completely okay. The end goal is for you to speak the way that you want to speak and to project yourself in a way that you want to be projected, and to project yourself in a way that you want to be seen by others. That's what I'm here to help you with. Of course, I'm going to give you the bridges. I'm going to give you the tools to take you away from the old habits of stuttering. But at the end of the day, I want you to know that, look, it's not like I'm trying to teach you to speak like me or to speak like a Tim Ferriss or even to speak like a Steve Harvey. What I'm trying to do is help you speak to the best of your ability in a style that you are most comfortable with, but I would say more so in the style that you feel most deeply, that you feel where when you speak in a particular style, it brings out the best in you, where you can just let the emotion, the energy, and the urge to speak do the talking. Going back to that Lee Levette idea. So I really hope this episode was helpful. If you want to dive deeper into my method, I have a free training. It's my Stop Stuttering workshop. If you truly follow it, you could achieve 90% fluency in as little as 6 weeks. This is an in-depth video training for how to overcome stuttering. It gives you the daily routine. It gives you the plan. It gives you the outline. It gives you that roadmap that you need to get started. And depending on where you're at, this could be everything you need. Sometimes all you need is that little bit of momentum. And this is what my Stop Stuttering workshop does for you. So if you want to achieve 90% fluency in as little as 6 weeks, imagine what that could be like. Imagine what that would feel like. This is your time. So I'll leave a link in the description below. It's 100% free. If you're on YouTube, you'll find it there, or just go to speakyourmindmethod.com and it's all over my website. You can't miss it there. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. This was a bit of an experiment into a different style of video where we're watching somebody else talk for a bit and then we're going back and forth. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next episode.